I came of age in LA. Became a teenager. I went to all ages discos in the 70s, and various scenes in the 80s and 90s. Even if I hardly know it sometimes, I still feel it.
This is Five Places, Los Angeles, a living documentary of the city produced by the LA Forum for Architecture and Urban Design. I'm Emmanuelle Bourlier, and in each episode, I ask one interviewee about the 5 places that define Los Angeles for them. Before we jump in, I want to mention that we've been running a listener survey, and we appreciate all the candid feedback that helps us improve the show. We'd love to hear from more of you and have included the link to the survey in the show notes. Today, I'm excited to share our second +1 interview. In each episode, I ask our guests to choose someone whom they in turn would like to ask about their 5 places, and those interviews are released as +1s. Artist and author Lisa Teasley, whom I interviewed in episode 5, chose performance artist Ron Athey as her +1. Ron Athey is a Los Angeles-based, self-taught artist performing since 1981's Premature Ejaculation noise action collaboration with the late Rozz Williams. Athey came into his own forming a performance troupe in the 90s, making works that toured internationally and addressed the HIV/AIDS crisis in ritualistic, philosophical, and mythological stage scenes. In 1998, Athey began making solo work, premiering at Gallerija Kapelica Ljubljana, onwards through 20 cities until the pivotal Undercover Surrealism show at the Hayward Gallery in London in 2006. Since then, Athey has moved between solos, opera collaborations, and video. 2 monographs have been printed on Intellect Press, Pleading in the Blood, 2013, and Queer Communion, 2021. For Ron's full bio and links to all the places and people he references, please check out the show notes. For Lisa Teasley's full bio and interview, please check out episode 5. Here is Lisa interviewing Ron.
There you are.
It took me a while. Karen's studio.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah, she has her colorful
Yes.
in the back, yeah.
Lovely, lovely. So are you ready?
I'm ready-ish.
Ready?
I've had my head cast today, so I'm like dingy.
Oh, wow, I see. Is this for the show?
Yeah, we're making kind of mannequin heads to display headgear on.
Fabulous.
Look at your beautiful work back there. Lovely.
So it's a very old painting of Rudy.
Oh, lovely.
Rudy, yeah.
I remember him.
Okay, so how long have you lived in LA?
First of all, I consider LA a region more than a city. So I'm from Pomona, and I was born on a submarine base in Connecticut, but my whole family were born in Pomona, and my mother was born in Hemet. So we're very Southern California, and for a few generations. So
right.
Yeah, I've seen it. I came of age in LA. Became a teenager. I went to all ages discos in the 70s, and various scenes in the 80s and 90s. Even if I hardly know it sometimes, I still feel it.
So who came first to Southern California? Your grandparents? If so, what brought them here?
Yeah, my family's pretty grapes of wrath, sort of Dust Bowl refugees. They came to Hemet in the 30s, and then my grandfather started doing construction work and got a job at building Harvey Mudd College at the Claremont Colleges.
Oh, wow.
And so under the GI Bill, got a house in Pomona, which is, due south of there by 30 miles. So
right.
Yeah, we lived in the south end of Pomona all of my life that I lived at home.
Right. So describe the 5 places in LA that define the city for you.
Ooh, that define the city. I could start with some survival spots, like living in downtown LA on almost no money in the days when Grand Central Market was like day old bread,
yes,
veg, and dairy and things on their last leg, so you spend a fiver and have days of lunches and dinners there. So I like the food court. You can still get different mole paste there to go, or you can sit down and have a shrimp taco or something, something fancy. I did queue up for the egg sandwich once. So, let's see, I'll have to count it out. That's one. That's
one.
Queued in different ways. I don't want to just cry about every spot. Griffith Park was always my spot to walk, to cruise, to bicycle, to run. Yeah. I've had so many different practices there, and I think, I was always surprised that it was always empty in the like the 80s. There's never anyone there until there's some point where everybody got a designer dog that needed walking. And that sort of took the privacy away of the outdoor wonderland for shenanigans. Yeah, it's still amazing how you can suddenly end up on the valley side and see like, oh, there's an archery range, and it's just always full of surprises. But besides things like the zoo and the Autry Museum on one end that you don't expect as much as Ferndale. Yeah, I had some summer outings here this year, so that's my park out of all of them.
Right. I was just there on Wednesday and ran into Mark Steiger.
Okay, yay. Yeah. We have a date as well next week to have a walk there.
Lovely.
Yes. And of course, there's the John Recchi stories that take place there, and I have seen him there, like with baby oil on, laying on a lounge chair. True to oneself. And he lives on Los Feliz Boulevard. Or I went to a writer group at his house there, so I kind of know where historic people live. And then to not stay in LA, I think Huntington Library and Gardens has always been a very important spot for me. Both, I love the garden, and in the garden, the most I love are the succulents, and I don't know if anywhere rates like their cactus garden. 120-year-old barrel cactus, this Brazilian cactus that are taller than a skyscraper. Splendid. Right now is a good time to see the aloes blooming. They have aloe trees, every form of aloe. And imagine like old Pasadena, I remember Old Town Pasadena before it was redone, and we all bought vintage clothes for like $5 a piece way back in the new romantic sort of dress up days. We needed a red felt jacket and a ruffled shirt and gloves. That was Pasadena, but particularly the Huntington, I remember, different points in my life somehow. If I ever felt kind of like spooky about what was going on in my life or the world, like a walk through the garden zone, a sit in the library. For me, a little bit, I always thought it was really kind of uppity and posh at the same time. So the Octavia Butler archives are there, and the projects, including Linnell's, that sprang out of that.
Yes.
I guess I would just have to include my neighborhood that I complain about, Silver Lake, the Sunset Junction, and how much of my life, happened or was accentuated or intersection there from Tabasco's, which had Club Fuck, Cliff's Edge that had the Disco 3626, and later Being Alive, 8th Service Center. Different bookstore used to be at the Junction right there. There'd be 200 people for an obscure lesbian reading, when everyone read back then. I guess it's hard to make a list when LA changes so much. And
that's so true.
Main fear of COVID for me is that, we're losing places like Pacific Dining Car that was open 24 hours a day, 99 years.
Yes.
Is now gone. I used to go to Catch One and have blueberry pancakes at 6 in the morning. So I kind of crashed. It's gone.
Your brother last year was there.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't realize it was gone.
And that was, there, just you'd walk in and see like the Cardinal having a meal with, you know, a city council person or whatever. You know, it's always a little bit mobstery. And I went to a James Ellroy book release there where they had like, you know, cubes of steak on toothpicks as the hors d'oeuvre. Just, you know, loveliness like that.
Yeah.
If you did old school, that was the spot to hit.
Right. So COVID, of the other places that you talked about, downtown, how has COVID affected it for you?
I think now places are just starting to close and they don't want the fanfare. I'm going to be, you know, curious to see what can survive. I have a friend with a shop, not here, but in San Francisco, but he spent his savings paying rent for 6 months. And then they partially opened. So he's just hanging on. Then that's a body piercing shop. You know, it's very niche. Like there's no need to get a piercing if there's nowhere to show off. You know, there's things that are linked to life being on. I mean, sure, we'll have some good pop-up shops, hopefully with all the empty storefronts. People do things like, I don't know, DIY galleries. Yeah, galleries that aren't paying $20,000 a month rent or up, so they don't have to be mega commercial. I think we could have a breather if only we could cancel the Olympics, you know, in 2028. That's the last thing LA needs. If anything's gained from COVID nightmares and people's misfortunes of losing businesses, of being evicted, that if all that's going to do is open it up for business people to hog up property, prepping to cash in on 2028.
Right.
I don't know, can a city with this many homeless people really host the Olympics? I don't think we should be allowed that.
We shouldn't.
You know, and it's one of the only regulators that property can't just go up; it has to come down at some point. And this is the only things that also affects people in the lower income realm. Is that, wow, what if we paid 30% less rent again? And what if we could have work studios for just, you know, I remember all those storefronts even on Sunset around Silver Lake and Echo Park were like $200 a month.
Yes.
So if you were down on your luck, you could still have a kind of horse bath shower in the back room if you didn't have an ensuite.
Right. Yeah. And over here, there's a lot of spaces for rent, for lease. The house across the street just went up for sale, you know, a couple of weeks ago. It's, you know, LA is really, really changing.
Yeah, and everyone that can't come up with rent, surely everyone can't be evicted. Like it's going to be
right.
So we did a bicycle from Silver Lake to Venice up to Santa Monica and through Beverly Hills. So that was quite a array of terrain.
Yes, you saw so much of the city.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So what boulevards did you take?
So we took, you know, kind of skirted down Koreatown. 4th Street is a bicycle lane all the way to the other side of Hancock Park. So we took that and then went down kind of parallel to Highland, all the way down to Venice and then across the boardwalk up. And Santa Monica across, but then I couldn't, you know, Santa Monica becomes little Santa Monica, especially like in Beverly Hills where you'd be on the highway if you know, bicycle doesn't belong on regular Santa Monica. So somewhere in Beverly Hills, kind of by the city hall building. Yeah. But then when it comes back together, I made a missed call and we were like stuck on San Vicente. So I was like, how are we at Wilshire again?
Yeah.
So then I added another few miles. You know, I'm a new bicyclist. 1 week, I've done 3 trips and I'm already going to the beach. So that's kind of exciting. I don't have a car and I'm really mad at Uber and Lyft for the Proposition 22. And now if you call them, it's like I had to take a car today with a lot of equipment. Yeah. I mean, I take Uber because I can't, in the long run, I think I can afford to go around LA more. Also, I'm a bit of a marijuana stoner, so I don't really want to drive since I lived in England. Yeah. I thought, wow, you know, this life did kind of increase LA, but to convince all the workers that they don't have a right to have rights, that they're just an app based. freelancer. It's like, wow, okay, we really are that sad in this country.
But I remember the years ago when you were on your bike, when you were at the Weekly.
Yeah.
Taking your bike there every day. But that was a much shorter ride, but still you were.
I did, like with Juan, sometimes in that era, we'd ride to the beach, and the same thing, eat at Versailles on the way back. But yeah, now there are much more bike lanes in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or there were zeros, much more. So yeah, it kind of maps you out. So you eventually end up back. So not so scary. I did go to the Citadel. Do you know the Citadel?
Yeah.
And it's like where East LA feels like it's going to turn into Orange County.
Right.
And that was scarier, like doing Sunset is fine, and Cesar Chavez didn't have lanes, and then Whittier Boulevard was probably the most scary for feeling like cars were like skinning you almost.
Right.
I wouldn't repeat that same exact route again, but I feel better because, I don't know, it has been a lot of trapped inside. And I don't know, I'm doing the proper helmet gear, and the mask actually kind of feels good in the kind of windy air and grit and stuff that you're riding through.
So then who would you ask, who would you interview about LA? Who would be your number one choice?
Maybe I would think about somebody like Rita, who has a real downtown life.
Yeah.
And also, has promoted and been part of the different music scenes. That's one. Yeah. I know. I feel like the years I was a journalist, actually, like people like Mike Davis would come in with the story. So that I feel like, reading City of Quartz with having contact with the person, that was kind of a treasure to look like that. I also, I always get inspiration from Linnell George, how much she loves LA, and her book of photographs and Snippet was also really nice. I know I do try to find people who are passionate about LA to talk about. It's easy to hate everywhere, and I did think a real signature LA person is somebody with no civic pride. Like the Y2K, they shined a laser light at the Hollywood sign for like 3 minutes. Like we didn't build anything. We didn't even get that paranoid about the computer crash. It was just kind of like, Y2K, whatever. I think civic pride is important to LA. We don't need a theme song. We don't need a coffee mug. But we just need to pay a little less for things, so we can just go back to being like, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, during my interview, I brought up Mike Davis and Linnell as well in their book.
Yeah.
City of Quartz.
Our real LA passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in the histories surrounding LA, coming from, Pomona is kind of the gateway to the Inland Empire, and just the histories out there. Even that, this time of year, like my friend Tanya Hamidi, she has an organic date business based at a Joshua Tree. Yeah. So I ordered some dates from her, and I tried to tell her, because my family was from Hemet, and that's adjacent to date growing country. Yeah. So all of our Christmas, everything was date based, like even like kind of divinity fudge was like white fudge made with dates. Kind of cakes and things, they were all sweetened with dates and date sugar. Yeah. So I do think like those are kind of interesting regional things, as well as the scary things like the Hells Angels going to Fontucky in the late 40s and starting the amphetamine trade in California, and why we've always been such a tweaker. Tweaker state. It was a imported biker business, eventually using the Nazi recipe in German for crystal methamphetamine.
Wow.
And then of course the places like Zizek's, where the spa was at an entire 120 years ago, people went there with like deep arthritis to soak in these hot sodium bicarbonate springs. Yeah. And the ruins are still there, around by the Cal State system as a desert observation center or something. But I want to use it to film something. I'll try to chisel my way into Zizix.
That would be great.
And reportedly, my great aunties from the Hemet San Jacinto days worked those Palm Springs spas, which meant desert hot spring spas of doing body work, which of course I do as one of my side hustles.
Oh, I didn't know
Therapeuticness, the snake oil, the new religions, the cults, things that contributed to California thinking anyway, whether or not these movements were all that in and of themselves. I'm still endlessly fascinated in that.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll see you soon, love.
Looking forward to it, Sarah.
To learn more about Ron's work and the people and places mentioned in this conversation, please check out the show notes. To hear more stories of the places that define Los Angeles, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the show, you can make a real impact by giving us a rating, a review, or sharing it with a friend. And if you'd like to share your thoughts about what you like or what we could do better, we've included a link to a listener survey in the show notes. 5 Places is produced by Annalie Garakani, Quinn Wynn, and me, Emmanuelle Bourlier, for the LA Forum for Architecture and Urban Design. We recorded on Chumash, Tongva, and Mikanakan land. Thank you for listening.